Hey, how's it going everybody? It's your boy Media Kaiser here, back again with another challenge run. We are finally jumping back into some Fire Emblem stuff, and wow, I know, so many uploads as of late. What's happening? Yeah, I just had extra time on my hands, and I just wanted to pump these bad boys out. So this is going to be less of a challenge run and more of a meme run, honestly, because I was just like, you know what would happen if I played as Gheb? Now, for the uninitiated, Gheb is a boss unit from Sacred Stones, the game that we'll be playing. He appears on chapter 9 on Ephraim's route, and his whole gimmick is he likes to sacrifice his men, he wants to harm Amelia, and he wants to do some less savory things to Tana. So he's basically memed on in the community as just the biggest Chad this side of the Mississippi. So there is a ROM hack called, I think it's called like Gheb FE, where you can play as Gheb as the Lord, but that's his own separate campaign. I thought it would be funny if I just replaced him with Erica and did a run of Sacred Stones. So, can you beat Fire Emblem Sacred Stones with only using Gheb? Now this is going to be a little bit weirder because again I had to go through FE Builder. I'm not the most familiar with it, so I had to tweak some things. So long story short, I kind of set his bases up in a way that they kind of match like units like Garcia, but I also wanted them to stay like kind of similar to what he would have later on. Base wise, he's got 8 strength, 6 skill, 7 speed, 3 luck, 6 defense, 2 resistance, and 5 move. I thought this was a pretty decent amount for him. I'm keeping him as a brigand unit because he can promote into his warrior, because there's no data on him before warrior, so I was like, yeah, I'll pick brigand. That's probably the closest to what he really is. He's less of a fighter, more of a villain character. But yeah, keeping it very simple. The only rule is beat the game using just Gheb. I can bring my other units along as bait, but really I don't want to if I don't have to. I will be using Colm sparingly here and there for certain items or to grab chests, but for the most part I'm just running this with Gheb. Alright, well let's jump into it. And guys, I appreciate the support so far on everything. Between this and the Final Fantasy stuff, I really like kind of what we've evolved into here. So I will try and keep both Fs coming up as much as I can, so appreciate it. But yeah, let's just jump into the prologue, The Fall of Renee. So I decided to just do the game on normal because I have no idea what's in store for me, honestly. But if it's anything like the first, I don't know, like half of the game, if not more than half of the game, I'm going to preface this, and you guys are going to notice this throughout. This is going to be a very quick run. It took me 3 hours to record all of the footage for this, which is nothing for a Fire Emblem game. So yeah, this is going to be a nice, quick, easy run, and hopefully it's a nice short video as well. We'll see at the end, though. I mean, you guys will already know, but yeah, so I'm going to be less speaking on each chapter individually, more speaking on Gheb's strength in the beginning. So, Fall of Renee, very simple chapter, 3 axe users to defeat. I go ahead and put Gheb on the mountain to try and give him a little bit more of leverage. That means he can avoid attacks easier, and O'Neill is a quick and easy boss to take care of. Chapter 1, Escape, I go ahead and just send Gheb as far forward as I possibly can. I gave him an iron axe and a hand axe because I thought that was fair to give myself a hand axe to start off with. Why not? But this chapter holds a very special place in my heart because we get a very surprising level up. Now, Gheb's speed growth is 20%. We get a level up for speed here, and that's not going to happen very often. You're going to see now and at the end of the run this speed difference and how little it is. But anyway, I make sure all of the other units, Seth is unequipped so he doesn't get targeted, or if he does get targeted, he at least he won't retaliate. And then Gheb just uses the fort to heal up with while I slowly make my way towards the boss Bregwet. And Bregwet is a nice simple kill as well. Alright, next we have Chapter 2, The Protected. I use Vanessa to rescue Ross because I want to keep Ross alive for his hatchet, which is going to be a nice little extra hand axe when I lose my hand axe. I do a little bit of shopping with Gheb, just to get a few more extra iron axes. And then I place him forward. I want to get him to reach Bone as quick as possible. I don't really care about saving that southern village because it's just a pure water. Though, in hindsight, that might have helped me. We'll get to that later. Anyway, I take Bone to Bone Zone because that's what he gets, boned. I think I've made that joke like a million times. And we're on to Bandits of Borggo. Again, the only character we'll be using here is Colm. I'm going to bring Namie up to recruit Colm. He's going to grab those chests for me while our boy mops up the floor with everything else. Big issue that we're going to start seeing now, I mean, it's not a big issue, but it's definitely an issue, are sword users. Sword users are speedier and they're going to be able to double us a lot. So we're going to have to hope our HP total is enough to kind of overtake that, because at least from what I'm seeing in these first few levels is our boy's gimmick is he has a lot of HP and strength. Like he has a 60% strength growth, so he's going to hit strength a lot, but his other stats aren't quite as good. But anyway, we reach the end, defeat Bazba, and we move on to Ancient Horrors. Ancient Horrors is the first map where you can get rid of all your extra units, but you're forced to bring Artur along. So I have Artur hide in the back, and I just begin the slaughter. These guys are meant for early game grinding, so they're not going to be difficult at all. Very, very quick chapter. Then we move on to Chapter 5, The Empire's Reach. This normally is a very hard chapter to deal with, but in this game, it's not too bad. I mean, to be fair, Joshua does almost kill me with a crit, but there's nothing a little bit of gambling can't fix. I just go ahead and attack him on player phase instead of healing, and I'm somehow able to get a nice lucky kill. Sar is also a notorious boss in this chapter because he's just like really, really easy. Like these early bosses are pretty not that bad. It's only once we start getting up to like the Tirado range, I believe is his name, is when we start seeing like actual like chapter 9 and above kind of enemies. But yeah, I also make sure on this chapter that I go swing by, I grab some items, some much needed steel axes just in case. Again, speed's not going to be an issue for me anyway, so I might as well go for a little bit of strength, you know? Well, we would move on to chapter 6, but we have the Gaiden chapter. Skipping that, of course, you guys don't need to see that. It has no effect on our run here. Alright, we're on to Victims of War. Normally a very annoying chapter, but just like my Pegasus Knight run, this I just decided to send Gheb let's just go to the right, you know? Let's just keep walking. And in that process of walking, he hits level 20. So we have a capped out Brigand with 42 HP, 18 strength, 14 skill, 9 speed, 12 luck, 13 defense, and 4 resistance. As you can see, HP total makes sense. Good amount of level ups there. Strength also makes a good amount of sense. That's 9 level ups, which is just under half actually. So realistically, like percentage wise, we should have hit cap. So I might have gotten unlucky there. I don't remember what his skill growth rate is off the top of my head, but I know it's not great. So 14 makes sense. And again, 2 speed growths in 20 or in 19 levels is pretty abysmal. But it's just something that we're going to have to live with. And hopefully it's not that big of a deal. Now we basically just have to wait till chapter 9 to get an ocean seal so I can promote him into his next class. But thankfully, with being able to traverse over mountains, I can make my way and defeat that spider to protect those villagers. I don't really need to do it, but the Orion's Bowl is a free 5k that I can sell off. So not too bad there. And Novala goes down also very, very quickly. And we move on to Wateride Renvil. Another chapter that was way easier on my last run, but this chapter I bring along Colm, because the mage in the middle has an energy ring on him. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to steal that. That way I can get myself up to cap on strength. Again, I don't need to get to cap, but it would be nice. I want to use the stats that I have to the best of my advantage. So I have to play around making sure Colm doesn't get hit, but that's not really too bad. Avoiding these ballistas wasn't too big of a deal either. So I grab that ring, make my way over to Murray, and Murray actually is a little bit scarier than I thought. Only because he has access to swords, and weapon triangle kind of screwed me on that. So I get pretty low, but I'm able to take him out. So again, not too bad. We move on to It's a Trap. So as I have a lot of experience with this map, I beeline directly to make sure Ephraim, Kyle, and Ford don't get too many kills. I really, if they get 1 or 2, it is what it is. That's just the name of the game. But I think they only pick up like 1, so it's not too bad. Anyway, after reuniting with them, I make sure I grab myself one of the Seraph robes that's on the top right chest. It's the only one I really care about. I don't necessarily need a Seraph robe because I'm pretty sure I'm going to hit cap, which is 60 HP. But it's nice to have extra HP while I have nothing else going on, basically, because I can't level up right now. So yeah, we make our way up to Tirado, And again, I'm playing it safe on a lot of these, where I'll just end turn instead of actually doing anything. That way, you know, I only have to deal with the enemy phase, not the player phase and the enemy phase. It's just not worth the risk when I am able to deal with these guys, not too terribly difficult. But yeah, Torado goes down, and we move on to our route split. Obviously, we're going to go Distant Blade route, so we move on to said chapter. Now, what I really wanted to do in this chapter was I wanted to defeat the pirates in order to get the dragon shield from the western village. But the problem was there was a bunch of enemies blocking my way. My hand axe was doing nothing really much to the mercenaries just because of the low accuracy. And if I had an iron axe equipped, which had way more accuracy, I wouldn't be able to retaliate against the snipers, archers, and mages. So it just took a lot longer, and for that reason I was unable to get to the village in time. Even attempting to use Tana as bait didn't really work. But at least I get the main thing I want for this chapter, the Ocean Seal. And that gives us 3 more HP, an extra point in strength, 2 points in skill, 3 points in defense, 3 points in resistance, and an extra con. I'm kind of disappointed, and I forgot that they don't give you any speed for the level ups here. So Berserker would have made more sense, but canonically Gheb is a warrior, so I wanted to go canon. Keep things kind of normal that route. And now we have access to bows, so what I'll be doing now is trying to get up that bow rank as much as I can. Hindsight, I probably didn't even need to worry about that, but at least for the here and now, my mindset when I was actually doing this was get that bow rank up to as high as I can. With that in mind, Binks becomes a little bit of a farm. I understand that bows have only 2 range, so they're not necessarily good weapons when it comes to 1 range, of course, but they are way more accurate, and I feel like that's going to be a problem with Gheb, is his low, relatively speaking for this game, low skill will prevent me from getting a lot of hits, and pair that up with the naturally inaccurate axes kind of adds a whammo kablamo there. Next we move on to Chapter 10, Revolta Carino. Now I make a beeline south in order to recruit Innes, only because I want his white gem and his silver bow, because the silver bow is very nice. And then I also recruit Garrick, just because I want the hero crest for money. I let Tethys die, not on purpose, but she just got sniped. There's way too many enemies for Gheb to deal with other people there. Like the thing with Gheb, and you're going to see a lot of this, the thing with him is very, very, bulky unit. He's got a lot of HP going from me. He's over 50 HP at this point in the game. Is crazy. His defense is good, but it's not anything like insane. It's no knight level defense. And his accuracy is pretty low. So you're basically just going to have to sit there and vulnerate up while you let the enemies just run into you. Or at least that's kind of what I've come to realize in this run. After clearing up all of those guys in that area, I destroy Marissa, open the gate, and move up to deal with Pablo. Pablo is pretty easy with my iron bow. I know, very expensive weaponry I'm using here. But again, I want that bow rank up as much as I can. And we move on to Chapter 12, Creeping Darkness. I usually hate this chapter because it's Fog of War, but in our certain circumstance, I equip a hand axe, and I just walk through. Man, it's easy. I do pick up the skill book, which is sitting in that right chest in the beginning area, mainly because extra skill. I need any stack upgrades I can get easily, I guess. Then I make my way over to La Rochelle and Dosla. I recruit them. I mainly recruit Dosla for that battle axe of his, just in case. So I need to recruit La Rochelle for that, and, might as well. And then I let them die while I clear up the rest of the enemies. The boss is just a generic white, pretty simple. The main difficulty with this chapter is getting caught off guard, but when your unit runs into enemies without a care in the world, without any sort of strategy or anything, it's great. Just head on, apply directly to the forehead, basically. But we move on to The Village of Silence, Chapter 13. Very similar to Chapter 12. We unequip Sayla, and we just let him die while I clean up all of the enemies around him. This is a very good opportunity for me to get up bow rank, just because these guys aren't that bad, and there's a lot of like gargoyle type enemies which are weak to arrows. A good opportunity for that. It's just a route all chapter, so it's more of a pain in the ass than anything. But we defeat the boss Malduin. God, that's a weird pronunciation. And we move on to Haml Canyon, a pretty infamous chapter. Now there's 2 ways to beat this chapter. You can either survive for 11 turns, or just make a beeline for the boss Ias. In other runs, Ias has always been a pretty difficult boss to deal with. However, I have a cool little thing called a killer axe. I just equip the killer axe, I just walk up to him, smack him in the face twice, and he's done. Easiest fight of my life. And we move on to my second least favorite chapter in this game. Funny enough, my least favorite is right behind it. The Queen of White Dunes. My objective for this chapter was to recruit Renee so I can use his member card in order to get into the secret shop, so I can buy some nice extra items, mainly more battle axes and anything else I need. However, Renee is too fast for me. I tried this a couple of times, and he outspeeds me. I cannot get up to him before he gets all of the treasure and skedaddles. So instead I just have to clean this chapter up the normal way, defeat the boss Carlisle, who was objectively a little bit harder, only because, again, he has a wind sword and can double me. But this is exactly the point where getting out my bow is a lot more useful, because the bow still does a lot of damage, but I'm less worried about not being able to hit on retaliation, especially against sword users. We have a lot of blank level ups, which are a little bit frustrating to deal with, but again, our stats are just insane, so it's not that big of a deal. One thing I forgot to mention, but it's pretty obvious, is it's really convenient when your lord is the supply. I can just get what I need to whenever I need to. Like, I don't have to carry around items, I can just willy-nilly grab whatever I need to on the fly. So even if I need this one specific weapon for this one specific circumstance, I can pull it out, use it, and then get rid of it after. It's great. It's probably why this game is so easy. Anyway, we move on to my least favorite chapter, Scorch Sand. This took the longest for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, there's like 50 enemies to defeat. Reason number 2, I have to protect Ephraim. I guess there's multiple reasons actually. It's like 4 reasons. Reason number 3, I have to hide in the corner while Ephraim takes a beating and I have to kidnap him. So that's annoying. Reason number 4 is the fact that my movement speed is like nothing. And reason number 5 is that I need to get a few items in the sand and they take forever. But we'll get to that. So my first thing that I do is right to the north of that village where Dwessel, Knoll, and Ephraim spawn, I have them move up there as quick as they can, and I have Gheb move down as quick as he can in order to create a choke point right in that area, because only one unit can come in and out. So if I just put Gheb there and I have the others hide behind him, I shouldn't have too much of an issue. Now Knoll does die, again, don't really care. I took off his items so I can sell his stuff later. I just need Dwessel to stay alive because he is protecting Ephraim, and if Ephraim dies, it's game over. So I don't really have a choice there, and I don't want to have Gheb pick up Ephraim, only because I don't want him to have less speed than he already does. I don't want him to get doubled by every single enemy in the game. But this wasn't really that bad. After, it just took a long time. Next thing I do is I go up north and I deal with Kalik real quick, and then I head back and I start making my way towards the Valter. And while I'm making my way towards Valter, the only real items I care about grabbing are, I don't know why I grabbed the Metis Tome, because it's not really useful, but I definitely need the Swift Souls, which will give me extra movement, so 2 extra movement, which is definitely going to help. And that took forever to get, but we do get it eventually. I mean, I could have brought a Faith along, because it's a 1 in 9 chance every time you stand over the area to grab it, but with a Faith it's guaranteed. So I could have brought Colm, that's 1 extra liability I have to worry about. Anyway, once we are done with that, Valter is a nice easy kill, and after defeating Kalik, we get the Hopline Guard, which is going to be pretty nice. It blocks crits. Less of a chance dying from bullshit, basically. Pretty nice. Next up, we have Ruled by Madness. This was the first chapter that actually gave me any form of difficulty, but that's mainly because of how I played this. So it's a siege chapter, and a lot of these have been route chapters, so I just had to kill everything. But now that we have a siege chapter, I wanted to be like, all right, let's just skip the fluff. My goal was immediately to just send Gheb north to try and deal with Orson as quick as possible. So I put him up there with honestly with an iron axe, only because iron axes have a little bit more accuracy. But I come to regret this slightly after, especially not dealing with those sages in the immediate area, because there's like a bunch of druids that come up, sages, and my defense is pretty decent, but my resistance is absolute garbage. So if I'm going to die to anything, it's definitely going to be those guys. Thankfully, I've been saving up my elixirs, so I use this up as an opportunity to use those elixirs but I do end up not being able to take out Orson before his goons take out me. So on my next attempt, I decided to just deal with a few of these guys, not too many. And then instead of putting Gheb directly next to Orson, I put him to the side with a hand axe, just because I can deal with spears better than I can a silver sword because of weapon triangle. That actually ends up being that winning ticket, and we defeat Orson. Move on to chapter 17, River of Regrets. Man, this chapter blows. I pick up one of the kids just because I can't remember if I get a game over if I let them all die, but they don't exactly have a lot of cons, so it's an easy pickup. There's just a lot of enemies around this area, and I don't think I have enough healing items. Like, there's a lot of druids and sages, and again, my res isn't that high, so I'm gonna slowly take more damage over time. And I almost actually wipe out. I almost lose, which is crazy. But after burning through like half a dozen hand axes, I'm able to clear a path to the north. And then I spend like basically all of the currency I have left buying more hand axes and other things. Pretty much just hand axes have carried me. Now I wanted to get my bow rank up so I can get S ranks in bow, but then I realized, oh wait, I can only get one S rank. I would rather have Garm as the S rank, but maybe in hindsight it would have been better to have Needhog instead. Only time will tell with that. Anyway, I'm able to make my way to Leon and I bow him down, and we move on to the hardest chapter in the game? Chapter 18, Two Faces of Evil. I actually had to use strategy in this one. The reason I say that is because these Gorgons are able to stone me, and the second Gheb got stoned, that's it, he's out of commission. He's basically a sitting duck. And in order to prevent that from happening, I had to use the one purifying water I had. What that will do is it'll give you 7 extra resistance, and that will decrease every single turn. So my 13 resistance goes down to 5, then 4, then 3. So you're on a ticking time bomb basically. And I've got to clear out a lot of Gorgons. This is a Gorgon Nest chapter. And man, do I reset a few times. I'm very surprised I reset a few times. It's mainly because that boss Gorgon as well had a lot higher chances to hit Gheb. And the second, as I said, the second I get stoned, that's it, game over, man. I honestly thought the run was lost because I'm like, oh, what am I going to do? This is awful. But I just kept trying. Eventually, with enough luck, I'm able to dodge at least one. And I'm able to clear out, use that as an opportunity to defeat the ones that are using stone. And then the ones that are using just the demonic gaze are not an issue. And that puts us to chapter 19, Last Hope. Man, compared to the last chapter, this was a snooze fest. I mean, I'm sure if I actually played the game in the right way, it would have been harder. What I do, it's a you can either survive for 13 turns or defeat Reeve. I could have just beelined it for Reeve, but instead what I do is I park Gheb's ass on the throne after rescuing Mansell, and these guys can't do anything to me on the throne. I am surprised that none of these guys can do literally anything. So sure, I'm not getting any of the items from the chests, no Swift Soul, none of that stuff, no Secret Shop, none of that. But I'd rather complete the chapter than gain extra items at this point. We are also, I did forget to mention, in the last chapter we did finally max out. That means our Gheb has 30 strength, which is the cap, 22 skill, not too bad actually, 11 speed, 15 luck, 20 defense, 13 resistance, and now 8 move. Yeah, so that speed growth, you remember we started the game with 7 speed? Yeah, he hit 4 level ups in 39 levels. Yeah, that's a thing. I'm quite happy about his skill and defense, and obviously strength capping out is great, but that speed is rough. That's kind of why I just have to park him on the throne in this chapter and just exist. After doing that, we're able to move on to the penultimate chapter, Darkling Woods, chapter 20. Alright, I had to reset once because I didn't realize there was a Gorgon in the first area, and I got stoned. Who would have thought Gheb's mortal enemy is a rock? Not actually, but... But after that simple reset, I just make sure I stay out of the Gorgon's range, and I use this as the final opportunity to get up my weapon rank as much as humanly possible, which I do hit the cap. But I didn't realize I hit the cap because I thought, oh, I can get S rank in both, and then I forgot, oh wait, you can't. Shows how much I know about this game, even though I play it all the time. Jeez. But yeah, even though you see me getting surrounded by enemies here, they can not do anything to me. This is, I feel like a mortal. Gheb is just destroying things left and right. It's great. So again, Reeve is a very easy fight, but Morva is a little bit more difficult. Morva, I feel like, does a scripted 36 damage. But this is a good opportunity for me to use that silver bow I grabbed like ages ago. This is why the weapon rank was important, because the dragons are weak to bows, or at least a silver bow. I do 45 damage, he does 36. So I enemy phase, he hits me, I go low, but I'm able to survive and deal with Morva on the next turn, and voila, we move on to Sacred Stone, chapter 21, or chapter end, whatever you want to say. So I ignore the chests, and we're forced to bring Ephraim along, which is annoying, but it is what it is. I make my way to the right side. The zombie dragon does give me some issues there, but I heal up, I back up, and then I come back because the zombie dragon doesn't want to move from that area, which is great for us. And he doesn't heal, so I could just pot shot, run away, just guerrilla tactics, you know? The real hard part is right before we get to Leon, actually. There's a group of Gorgons, my mortal enemy. Now these guys aren't going to stone you as much as they are going to just try and hit you with Demonic Surge. But Demonic Surge does like 10 to 15 damage per. And considering there's 6 of them, it's kind of rough. And while that's happening at the same time, there's a group of gargoyles that are encroaching on top of Gheb. And again, this is great because I have a lot of elixirs at least. So I hold out my hand axe and I get to like 20 HP each turn. One turn I get to 5, but that's what those elixirs are for. I heal up to full, just rinse and repeat until all of the enemies are dead, and then I move up towards Leon's area. Now in order to deal with Leon, I decide to finally use Garm. Garm is the legendary weapon that's going to increase our speed by 5, which is going to be very useful, bringing us to a total of 16 speed. That means I'm actually going to be able to double something. Holy crap. But even though that's the case, Leon is still very scary. His Nagalfar does over half of my HP in one hit, about 36, same as Morva, but I'm able to do 48 to him. So do the math, I have to end turn twice, player phase, I heal, enemy phase, I hit. And that's not too bad. Now we move on to for Mortis. And I've got some bad news for y'all. Yeah, we lose. I tried this fight a few times, and unfortunately, it's just, I don't have enough manpower to not only defend myself from the encroaching zombie dragons and other especially with the Gorgons in the mix. Oh my god, if they weren't here, maybe I'd have a chance. But the fact that I can get stoned in between trying to deal with this giant ass boss, just not gonna happen. He's doing 32 to me, I'm doing 25 to him. I can only use Garm, really, and 4 Mortis can hit from like 1 to 2 range, so I can't retaliate on enemy phase. And because I can't retaliate on enemy phase, I can't like heal spam him out. And unfortunately, I can't see an out. I try this a lot of times, but I cannot see an out. I either get petrified, I get destroyed by a zombie dragon, or I just get destroyed by Mortis himself. At least in the route that I've played this game, no, you cannot beat Fire Emblem the Sacred Stones with this specific Gheb. Now, if you made Gheb's stats a little different, because there's a little bit of freedom here, because he's not a main unit. And he obviously doesn't have he does have predetermined stats, but those predetermined stats are pretty bad. So if you use somebody like Garcia, or I don't know, Ross or somebody as your base stat, or maybe he get more defense or speed, or even skill growths, so maybe he can dodge an attack or two, would be useful. However, unfortunately, L. But again, this was a very, very easy run. Besides that, a very nice, fun. I was like, yeah, let's play as Gheb. Why not? Let's just do this. Gheb's a cool guy. I mean, he's not a cool guy. He's a bit of a weirdo, but not now because he's one of the good guys. But anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. My name is Meteor Kaiser, as always, and I will see you in the next run. But until then, as always, peace.